The Resolute shook violently as another barrage of plasma fire rained down from the Zephyr warships. Captain Mara Bennett gripped the railing of the command deck, her knuckles white. "Shields holding at 22%, Captain!" Lieutenant Valen shouted, his voice straining above the blaring alarms. Mara's gaze hardened as she watched the chaos unfold on the holodisplay. The last human fleet was outnumbered and outgunned, and the Zephyr, a race of cold, calculating warriors, seemed determined to wipe humanity from the stars. For years, this war had torn through systems, and now Earth itself lay in peril. "Send a distress signal to High Command," Mara ordered. "Tell them we're not going to make it unless—" Before she could finish, a new tone chimed on the console. It was a priority transmission. Not from Earth. Not from High Command. But from the flagship of the enemy. "Captain, it's the Zephyr. They want to talk," Valen said, eyes wide. Mara froze. The Zephyr didn't negotiate. They annihilated. Yet here it was, an olive branch from the most feared force in the galaxy. The bridge fell silent, except for the hum of the damaged systems and the soft pulse of warning lights. "Patch it through," Mara said, her voice a mixture of wariness and curiosity. The screen flickered to life, revealing the unmistakable form of Overseer Zaleth, the alien commander who had orchestrated the siege on Earth. His tall, angular frame was draped in ceremonial armor, glowing with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed in sync with his words. "Captain Bennett." Zaleth's voice was smooth, but his glowing eyes betrayed the tension behind them. "We are at a crossroads." Mara squared her shoulders, her mind racing. Why now? Why, after years of slaughter? "I wasn't aware the Zephyr were interested in diplomacy," she said, keeping her tone sharp. "What game are you playing, Overseer?" Zaleth's face remained impassive, but there was something in his expression, something almost human in the desperation behind his gaze. "This war will end today, one way or another. We have come to understand that both our species are on the brink of extinction. But there is a way to save us both." Mara's stomach churned. She didn't trust the Zephyr, not after all the destruction they had wrought. But she was also a pragmatist. "Speak plainly," she demanded. "What do you want?" Zaleth's gaze flickered, and the display zoomed out to show the planet Earth, surrounded by the burning wreckage of human ships. "Our kind is dying, Captain. A genetic anomaly has spread through our population. Your species holds the key to our survival. We offer a truce, an alliance. But it comes with a price." Mara narrowed her eyes, tension mounting in the pit of her stomach. "And what is this price?" Zaleth hesitated for the first time. "We need to merge with your kind. Only human DNA has shown potential to counteract the anomaly. A biological union between our species could save us both." Silence fell over the bridge as the weight of Zaleth's words sank in. This wasn't a truce, it was a gamble with the future of humanity itself. Mara's pulse quickened, her mind racing through the possibilities. Could she really trust them? Could humanity survive this unholy alliance, or would it lead to their downfall? "Captain," Zaleth's voice softened, "we have little time. Agree to meet and discuss the terms, or this war will end with both our peoples destroyed." Mara's heart pounded in her chest. The fate of humanity rested on her next decision. "Prepare the shuttle," she ordered, her voice steely. "We're going to see what the Zephyr are really offering." As her crew scrambled to execute her command, Mara stared at the image of Earth, scarred and bleeding. This was no longer just a war for survival. It was a fight for the future of two civilizations. As the shuttle detached from the Resolute, Mara Bennett could feel the weight of uncertainty pressing down on her shoulders. The craft's interior hummed softly, a stark contrast to the chaos aboard her ship. Seated beside her was Lieutenant Valen, his expression tense, the blue of his uniform contrasting sharply with the pale metal of the shuttle. The dim lights flickered overhead, casting uneasy shadows that danced across the walls. "Are you sure about this, Captain?" Valen asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "The Zephyr have killed thousands of us. They can't be trusted." Mara turned to him, her heart heavy with doubt. I know, but if they're offering a way to end this war, we have to consider it. Every second we waste gives them an opportunity to strike again. She swallowed hard, thinking of the lives that hung in the balance. This could be our only chance. Valen clenched his jaw, obviously unconvinced. I understand the stakes, but what if they intend to use us? We might be walking into a trap. As the shuttle glided toward the enemy flagship, the Elysium, Mara felt a rush of adrenaline. She was not just a captain, she was humanity's last line of defense. The soft hum of the engines intensified as they approached the massive warship, its surface glimmering like a predator waiting to pounce. She leaned forward, trying to mask her anxiety with determination. I won't let them take advantage of us, she said firmly. I'll negotiate on our terms. We have to protect humanity, even if it means making uncomfortable alliances. Moments later, the shuttle docked with a soft thud, and the airlock hissed open. The chill of the Zephyr ship enveloped them, a stark contrast to the heat of battle they had just left behind. Mara took a deep breath and stepped into the stark, sterile corridor, Valen close behind. The walls were adorned with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed rhythmically, casting an eerie glow around them. She had to admit, the aesthetic was unsettling yet beautiful. Yet beauty could hide malice, and she remained wary. At the end of the hallway stood Zaleth, flanked by two imposing Zephyr guards, their features angular and unyielding. Zaleth's bioluminescent armor flickered as he moved, reflecting the tension in the air. He inclined his head slightly, his gaze piercing. Welcome, Captain Bennett. Thank you for coming, he said, his voice smooth but cold. Mara straightened her back, fighting the instinct to flinch under his scrutiny. Let's get to the point, Overseer. What is it you want? Directness is commendable, he replied, his expression inscrutable. We desire an alliance, yes, but not without sacrifices on your part. What kind of sacrifices? Valen interjected, stepping slightly in front of Mara, his protective instincts flaring. We will not surrender our people or our principles. Zaleth's expression didn't change. We require a human, a volunteer, who can initiate the genetic fusion between our races. In return, we will share our advanced technologies and provide protection from other hostile factions. Together, we can end this war. The implications of his words hung heavy in the air, a dangerous bargain. Mara felt her breath catch in her throat. A volunteer? You want one of us to merge with your kind? Zaleth nodded unfazed. Yes. It is necessary to heal our species and ensure the survival of both. If you choose not to comply, the war will continue, and both our peoples will be doomed. Mara's heart raced. The gravity of his proposition echoed in her mind. Could they sacrifice one to save many? Or was this the beginning of humanity's end? Give us time to consider, Mara said, trying to keep her voice steady, even as her mind raced with 1,000 thoughts. We'll return to our ship and discuss this. Zaleth's eyes narrowed slightly, but he inclined his head in agreement. Time is a luxury you may not possess, but I shall grant it for now. Choose wisely, Captain. As they turned to leave, Valen whispered, What are we going to do? We can't just hand someone over. Mara's heart thudded heavily in her chest. I don't know, Valen. But I'm not ready to sacrifice anyone. Not yet. The shuttle ride back to the Resolute felt interminable. Mara's mind raced with possibilities, fears, and the reality of the choice ahead. If they refused, would it mean extinction? If they accepted, what would it mean for humanity? One thing was clear, the fight for survival had entered a new, treacherous phase, and Mara Bennett was determined to lead her people through it, no matter the cost. The Resolute hung in the stillness of space, a solitary bastion amid the vast cosmos. Mara stood at the command center, her eyes fixed on the star-speckled void beyond the viewport. The gravity of Zaleth's proposition weighed heavily on her heart. Could humanity really consider an alliance with the Zephyr? Her fingers danced nervously along the console as her crew moved about, their murmurs punctuating the silence. Captain! Valen's voice broke through her thoughts, heavy with concern. We need to talk about this. The crew deserves to know what we're facing. She turned to him, her resolve firming. You're right. Gather everyone in the briefing room. As Valen relayed the orders, Mara took a deep breath, steeling herself for the conversation ahead. The crew was more than just personnel, they were family. Each face reflected shared struggles, and each of them had fought tirelessly to keep humanity alive. She had to prepare them for the storm that lay ahead. The briefing room filled quickly, the atmosphere charged with apprehension. Faces, tired yet determined, turned toward her as she stepped to the forefront. The walls of the chamber, illuminated by blue holographic projections, felt constricting, but she would not falter. Thank you for coming, Mara began, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. We've just returned from negotiations with the Zelfar. They've presented us with a unique proposition, an alliance that could end the war. Gasps rippled through the room, punctuated by skeptical murmurs. An alliance? One engineer asked, disbelief etched in his features. With the same race that slaughtered our people? Are you serious, Captain? Mara took a moment, searching for the right words. I understand your anger. But they've offered advanced technology and protection against other threats, including their enemies. To survive, we might need to consider uncomfortable options. Valen stepped forward, his brow furrowed. But they want a human to merge with them. That's a sacrifice I'm not willing to make. The room buzzed with tension as eyes darted between Mara and Valen. None of us are, Mara reassured, raising her hand to quell the unrest. But if we refuse, the Zelfar might escalate their attacks, and we could lose everything. This isn't just about us anymore. It's about our survival as a species. Survival shouldn't mean becoming something we're not. Another crew member challenged, anger bubbling beneath the surface. What's next? Will we have to bow to their demands? Mara felt her heart race, the room swelling with fear and anger. I'm not suggesting we submit, but we must weigh our options. What's at stake is more significant than any one of us. The fate of humanity hangs in the balance. She sensed the shift in the room as the crew's unease morphed into a contemplative silence. Slowly, hands began to lower, faces became thoughtful. What do we do now? Valen asked, his voice softer, a plea woven into the question. We'll hold a vote, she declared, steeling her voice against the swirling doubts. Every member of this crew deserves to voice their opinion on our next steps. It's crucial that we unite in this decision. The crew members nodded, and a sense of resolve began to fill the air, pushing back against the shadows of fear. As they prepared to cast their votes, the ship's alarms blared suddenly, red lights flashing violently. A chill of dread ran through the room. Mara's heart raced as she turned toward the nearest monitor, which revealed a Zelfar fleet emerging from hyperspace, massive ships materializing with a menacing grace. Captain? Valen shouted, urgency flooding his tone. They're here! Mara's mind raced. This was no coincidence. The Zelfar had arrived to test their resolve. She could feel the weight of her choices pressing down on her, the path ahead murky and fraught with peril. Battle stations! She commanded, her voice cutting through the chaos. Prepare for immediate action. We'll show them humanity won't back down. As her crew scrambled into action, Mara locked eyes with Valen, his determination mirroring her own. They were warriors, united in purpose. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. The crew's loyalty fortified her resolve, and she breathed deeply, ready to confront the storm. The choices made in the coming moments could either seal humanity's fate or carve a path toward a fragile peace. One thing was certain, they would fight for their survival. The Resolute trembled as enemy fire rocked the hull, alarms blaring and flashing red throughout the ship. Mara steadied herself at the command console, adrenaline coursing through her veins. The Zelfar fleet loomed on the main display, their massive ships cutting through the stars like predators in the night. Captain? Valen's voice was taut with urgency, his eyes glued to the tactical readouts. We've got incoming fire from the left flank. They're targeting our engines. Divert power to shields, Mara commanded, her mind racing. And alert engineering, we need to prepare for evasive maneuvers. The crew sprang into action, hands flying across their consoles as the atmosphere thickened with tension. Every second counted. "Shields at 70%! A technician shouted, sweat glistening on her brow. "They won't hold if we don't get out of here!" Mara glanced at Valen, whose jaw was clenched, determination etched into his features. "We can't fight them head-on. We need to draw them away from the Resolute before we take on the fleet. There are too many of them." "Then let's get creative," Mara replied, a plan forming in her mind. "Activate the decoys. We'll lead them toward the asteroid field. Their ships won't maneuver well in that terrain." Valen nodded, a spark of hope igniting in his eyes. "On it! Engineering, set the decoys to go off at my mark." As they maneuvered the Resolute toward the approaching threat, the first shot struck, jolting the crew. Mara fought to remain composed, knowing that her confidence was vital. "Steady, everyone! We've faced worse odds before. Trust in each other." She could hear the pounding of her heart as the asteroid field loomed closer. The ship's engines roared beneath her feet, vibrating with energy. The Zelpher ships followed relentlessly, their weapons firing sporadically, illuminating the darkness with bright flashes. "Now!" Valen shouted. "Deploy the decoys!" A series of bright lights erupted from the Resolute, launching into the void like shooting stars. Mara watched the Zelpher ships veer toward the distractions, eager to engage. The crew cheered, a momentary surge of adrenaline sweeping through them. "Make the turn! We'll follow them into the field," she commanded, gripping the console tightly as the ship banked sharply. The crew's cheers quickly faded into tense focus, their hearts racing alongside the ship. As they plunged into the asteroid field, the chaos of the battle morphed into a frenzied dance of survival. Rocks the size of skyscrapers floated silently, interspersed with treacherous debris. Mara navigated the Resolute deftly, her instincts guiding her as she weaved between obstacles. "Keep an eye on our rear! They'll try to flank us," Valen warned, eyes darting back and forth between screens. The Zelpher fleet, now disoriented, was trying to follow them into the treacherous field. "Keep them on their toes," Mara urged, spotting a cluster of asteroids ahead. "We'll use that to our advantage." As the crew maneuvered through the debris, explosions rocked the hull. Mara gritted her teeth, the shrill alarms screaming for attention. "Engineering status report. Shields down to 50%. We can't take many more hits like that," the technician shouted, panic creeping into her voice. "We're almost through," Valen urged, determination fueling his words. "Just a bit further." Suddenly, the Resolute shuddered violently as a massive asteroid slammed into the rear, sending the ship spinning. Mara gripped the console, her heart racing. "Hold on! Stabilizing thrusters, now!" The crew struggled against the G-forces, their collective strength pushing back against the chaos. As the Resolute righted itself, Mara glanced at the monitor. They had successfully outmaneuvered several of the Zelpher ships, leaving them tangled in the debris. "Go! We need to get out of this field while we still can!" she shouted, her voice steady. With renewed focus, the crew accelerated, threading their way through the asteroid field's labyrinth. Just as they emerged into open space, a thunderous explosion erupted behind them. Mara dared to look back, seeing a Zelpher ship engulfed in flames, unable to escape the debris. "Captain?" Valen's voice trembled with disbelief. "We did it!" But Mara's victory was bittersweet. A nagging doubt gnawed at her. The battle had only begun, and they had yet to confront the true challenge, their choice to ally with the Zelpher or risk everything to fight alone. "Let's regroup and assess our damage," she said, her heart heavy. "We still have a decision to make." As they floated in the silence of space, the weight of their options pressed down on her, the future of humanity hanging precariously in the balance.